So with Ashura episode 3, I leave just as fascinated and intrigued as previous episodes, but I still leave with the same feeling of not really knowing what this isekai wants to do. But damn am I eager for more. Like, I'm pretty much just saying inject episode 4, 5, 6, all these episodes into my veins. I am fascinated beyond belief. But it should feel overwhelming. It really should. Like, they continue to throw more and more characters, stories, perspectives. And while I can already see one season is not even going to be close to enough to fulfill what I want to see from this show, I really wish this was a 2-core back-to-back, because it feels like by episode 8 or 9 the ball's really going to start moving. But either way, I am very happy to be blessed with even just an intro to a story like this, because as much as I can't pick which character I want to focus in on the most, the idea of this world, and kind of like what should be a peaceful world given evil and, horrible things are kind of gone, different travelers from different worlds coming in and almost competing for power and kind of like ruling this world through chaos like that. I mean, there's so many different stories at play. And I love the fact that it's not just like you go into a new episode and here's brand new character that hasn't been teased yet. Like the wyvern that did that giant hyper beam, I think it was in episode 2. Now we get to see more of him and his leadership and kind of like how he's like the queen bee of this whole pack. It's just like, there's so much going on, and usually when it comes to battle royales or any sort of story that kind of has like 4 to maybe 8 characters that are kind of like main or main-ish supporting characters, like they're pretty important, but maybe they're not quite MC status. It's like, oh, you give them their backstory because you're killing them in this episode. Where this is like, hey, they're all gonna kind of group together probably. Like maybe not exactly all in the same location, but character A might be with character D and fighting them at some point. So let's introduce them, get all their stories going, and really start to understand the world and layout before we start killing these characters or throwing them into fights that might kill them. And I have to say, as much as I don't know where each of these characters are going and who's going to make it out alive by the end of a story like this, I'm absolutely fascinated for more. Full live reaction to Ashura episode 3 over on my Patreon. If you would like to see my full uncut thoughts, they're over there if you're interested. I have been very fascinated with this show since episode 1. Episode 2 hooked me in probably at least 2 or 3 times more. I would say I'm slightly more interested after this episode, but I was already like, I feel like at max hype and excitement after last week. So that's not really a diss at this episode. I just feel like I've probably reached my max level of curiosity. But I like the fact that it's not just like one character we focus on in an episode. As much as I love my dragon, my wyvern warrior with his magical weapons of chaos from last week, I'm excited to see more of these characters. And when you have this like general, this girl who's kind of like, she's a commander of the city, she kind of feels like the captain of the city watch in a way, right? Like she seems like a very noble person. I'm like, okay, this is the character we're focusing on. And we do focus on a bit of her, but she actually reminds me of the general from last week, who I also thought was then going to be the main focus, and then in comes wyvern warrior. Same thing happens with her soldier warrior who isn't a warrior because he's a bandit. Like, I wasn't sure what the hell he was talking about for the longest time. I was like, dude, you have a giant blade on your back and you're saying you're not going to be a warrior or this or that, like a soldier. Like, what are you? I was like, oh, maybe he's an assassin, but I guess bandit and assassin are pretty close to being the same. His abilities are cool. So he's one of these otherworld travelers. So I wasn't sure what his abilities were at first, but by the end of it, he kind of felt like if Levi didn't need maneuver gear, that's how this dude bounces around. He's cutting heads off. He's stabbing fools left and right. He's able to deflect bullets with his magic sword, but most importantly, his observation and how, like, I was like, does this guy have night vision? Like, what the hell is he doing? Like, how is he knowing there's like 5 snipers in this building? Like, he's not even looking, like they're behind cover. And we start learning about his abilities, and by the end of that whole exchange, I'm like, okay, I need him to fight with the MC from the first episode who cut down that giant robot. Now that's a fight I want to see 100%. I like it. I was like, this is cool. And then they shifted again. And I was like, oh, okay. Because when they were teasing in last week's episode, where you had like all the wyverns, one of them was very articulate, was able to hold a conversation, then did like a giant hyper beam flamethrower of death and was just causing destruction. I didn't think they were going to be a major focus after they introduced the actual character who I thought was going to be the MC for the wyvern characters. No, in this episode, we get more into that character and the idea that pretty much they are very obedient to their leader, right? Like, he he rules with an iron fist. And the idea that one of them decided to attack civilians inside the Capitol, and obviously if you do that, we're not going to be on good gracious with, of course, the leader, right? And ultimately it's going to be very bad for that. So he brutally kills him and makes basically a statement like, if you do this, you will die. And I'm interested if they would go the route, because it seems like, you know, it's kind of like a queen bee situation. They all follow the orders of the queen bee and live to serve the queen bee, which is this dude, right? But it's going to be interesting because sometimes with those types of characters, there's another one who tries to rise above them. Like, honestly, I'm going to make a comparison maybe some people will get, but anyone who's played Mass Effect, like, think of like Rex's people, you know, like it's very a hot-headed, like, hey, the strong rule. So if there's even a whiff of like, maybe this dude's not strong enough, maybe another wyvern will try to like overtake him or something, I don't know. But I mean, they introduced a very sweet element with this like princess who's blind. I'm not sure if she's a princess or just like daughter of nobility, whatever, but you know, she's blind. She has this very nice song. Beautiful song. I'm not sure if it's the same voice actor doing the song as it is for the character actually talking, because if it's two different people, they casted that brilliantly, but her voice was beautiful with that song. And the idea of both of them kind of like lone survivors of such a horrible massacre, all things considered, and how they bonded over that, kind of like bonding over trauma in a way, and using that song as therapy in a lot of ways. Very, very interesting. At first, I wasn't sure the reason he was trying to not let her touch him was because she didn't know he was a wyvern, but by the end of that, no, like 100% she does. So I'm kind of curious if maybe the big reason he doesn't want to be touched is kind of PTSD and kind of that fear of intimacy, even just a simple touch, I don't know. But either way, like, so much happened in this episode. Last episode teased about 3 groups of characters. A couple of them we got into this episode, but like, there's so much about this and just the idea of this world. At surface level, it kind of reminds me, like, when we're looking at the city and stuff, it's like a Magi or an Arslan Senki kind of vibe with the buildings and everything like that. But like, it's so nice to have an isekai that is an isekai. A majority of like the main characters we're going to be following, or at least probably a good handful, come from other worlds and have powers from other worlds. But I love the fact that this world has a culture and identity that's more than just we need to look at them as the transported character from another world. No, like they're their own person, just who has come from another world, and the type of chaos or help it could bring to a world that should be peaceful right now, but is about to get a whole level of chaos is really, really fascinating. I quite enjoy this show. It has been a very pleasant surprise for me because honestly, I thought it would be a fun action show at best. And while I do very much enjoy the action, a majority of the stuff that feels lightning fast is dialogue, is me just learning about a character, learning about some history, or learning about the new location we're in and wondering which characters are going to get along and which characters are going to be at each other's throats. And am I going to be excited for those fights knowing that there's probably only going to be one victor, and I'm already liking all the characters we focused on. So that's gonna be a hard pill to swallow, but either way, loving the show. Let me know what you're feeling down below. What do you hope to see next week? Next week is teasing a pretty cool character. Dude looks like he's pulled from Fate Zero. He has like a spirit of some sort, and he's gonna be escorting a prisoner who looks like Dr. Octopus. I don't know, but this show's wild. Let me know what you're feeling down below. Move like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more of the channel. And like I mentioned, we have that full live reaction. And hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Jedmons 9173, Durhosh, Franklin Greenway, and Hikari Lounge. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. Have a good one.